Hello everyone, Specter here and welcome to Star Citizen. Some time ago, I met a friend who purchased a Polaris and he said that in the future of Star Citizen, probably we can fly the ship around in the universe and treat it as a mobile base. How good it would be? Two things came up in my mind all of a sudden. One, what do you mean by we? Second, well, he just wastes a lot of money. Because he had got no idea how hard it would be to keep the capital ship running in the future of Star Citizen. So today, I would like to talk about what kind of problem that you may need to face if you own a capital ship in Star Citizen in the future. The first problem you need to face is to find places to spawn your capital-sized ships because they are large. So it means that you need to have a large hangar in order to do so. But for finding large hangars there, you need to go to some relatively well-developed systems in order to find them. So it would be much more complicated comparing to those smaller craft, obviously, when you come up with like spawning your ship. And I understand that many of you may start to say, why don't you just spawn your ship in space stations? It would be much convenient comparing to the hangars on the surface. For me, space station is a facility for you to store things, not a places for you to spawn things. So just like a character, at the beginning, you must spawn your character on planet first before you reach to the space stations and live there. So the same thing might apply to the ship in the future, which you need to spawn them on the planet first before you store them in those space stations. So yeah, it turns out you can't really spawn anything in the future in space station, I think. Second problem would be about the quality of your crew, which many players right now may still have some misunderstanding about the future of Star Citizen would be the same as what they're experiencing right now. So what they would do is to fly the capital ships with their friends, go to somewhere else and do some missions over there, go back to the ship and call it a day. But the truth is that in the future of Star Citizen, things would be much complicated. Let's talk about repair, for example. So right now, when we're trying to fix our ships, all we need to do is to fly towards a space station or landing pad, and with a press of a button, voila, things will be done. Future of Star Citizen, things will be different because like space stations and other repair facilities will not be always right next to us. So it means that we need to perform the repair in most of the cases. So in order to repair your modules, you need to pull the thing out and to take a look at it. And more disastrous thing that CRG gave it to us is to like, you got the interior inside of your modules, so you really can open up your modules and take a look at the parts and swap the things out, of course. If the parts are okay, but the module itself still malfunction, it means the module itself got problem. So you need to use different method to solve the problem by maybe, for example, if it's overheated, then you need a fire extinguisher to put out the fire. So generally speaking, it means that players really need to spend time on studying the modules to learn what kind of ways to overcome the problem so that they will be able to fix their ship in a more efficient way. Also, the NPCs in the future probably will be different from what we can see nowadays. So right now, when we're trying to against some hostile NPCs in a big ship with our friends, is to simply hop into the turret and start shooting at everything that moves, no matter it's friend or foe. But in the future of Star Citizen, the NPCs will be much cunning, so it means that they will not just simply rush towards your ship when they're against you, but instead they will use different tactics to approach you, or even like performing some sort of coordinated attack, so that you will have something to distract you while like something will be finishing you off. To encounter these kind of cunning NPCs, you need to spend time on drills and training so that you and your crew will have a better coordination by like targeting the same kind of target or what kind of target you should attack first than the others. So these kind of training and drills will take you quite a lot of time in order to make things perfect. No matter for now or in the future, probably there would be the same thing, which is most of the players in Star Citizen, they are weekend fighters. It means that they would be only available to get themselves online during weekend for an hour or two in some cases, because they need to spend time with their families as well, which is understandable. So it means that, well, your crew members will have less time to perform drills, training, or even maintenance for your ship because they really need their time to do missions to earn credits. So it means that in the short run, you may see your crew have a hard time to defend your ship because, well, they will be simply like lost their way when they are trying to find the turrets. They don't know what kind of thing they should do when they are against some skillful hostile NPCs, which makes your ship quite vulnerable at that time. But of course, in the long run, after they get used to their ship, then things will be better, but it will take a longer period of time to do so because every time you're just simply having weekend time to like doing your job, right? So of course, in a short run, you can hire NPCs to overcome these kind of problems, but well, it seems like you overcome the problem, but you just simply cover up the problem by making another problem getting worse, which is to increase the expense of your ship. So yeah, the quality of your crew members will be quite important for your capital ships in the future, and in the short run, for most of the cases, unless your crew members can get themselves online every day for many hours, if not, well, you need to expect that for your human crew players, like they would be having a hard time to really work efficiently on board of your ship. The third problem would be about the crew size of the capital ships. So this topic is quite interesting, so I may need to talk about it in detail. And people looking for capital ships in Star Citizen, they will look for the crew size as well. But many of them will only pay attention to the minimal crew size and ignore the maximum crew size, because for their perspective, they think that everyone should have fun together by shooting at something. So they would just simply pay attention to how many people are needed to man those turrets, plus one pilot of course. Then these amount of people will be their perfect crew size for their capital ships. Of course, this problem is not limited to the capital ships only, but this kind of actions will cause much severe result to the capital ships than the other ships because of its better self-sustainability and also of its bigger in size. In Star Citizen, they need to return to base frequently to resupply due to the lack of facilities on board such as med bay, as well as storage capacity to store enough necessities, munitions, and fuel. Compared to that, most of the capital ships will not lack of these due to their much larger in size, which create a much better environment for capital ships to act like a mobile base for the players. However, longer the ships stay active outside of base, the integrity of those modules on board will decrease. It means that players need to repair and maintain their ship's modules more and more frequent as the time passed. The bigger ship you got, more modules on board. As a result, it would take a longer time for the players to finish repairing things on the ship if you got a smaller crew size. Also, staying outside in space longer, it means that increase your risk of being in danger and having accidents. So with a larger crew size can at least help the ship handle the situation easier in many cases than the smaller crew size, especially when you put a lot of important things of your character on board of these mobile bases. That's why when you're looking for capital ships in Star Citizen, you should not aim for the smaller crew size, but instead you should always consider the maximum crew size if you want to treat it as your home in space. Of maximum crew size, I found that some of those capital ships, perhaps it would be better if you can fill these ships up with a larger crew size than the maximum crew size that CRG listed up for those ships. Say a RSI Polaris, because I talk about it with my friends, so I still remember what is going on. So the maximum crew size of that ship would be 14 people, and I think that is still reasonable for most of the scenario, but it's not going to be the best yet in some scenario after I did some math. So let's say in a combat scenario, and just presume that everyone is trying to do their own job by not trying to running around, trying to achieve someone's job by leaving your own position and something like that. Okay, so you're supposed to have 5 people on the bridge: a captain, a pilot, a co-pilot, an intel or communication officer, obviously, and also a turret gunner who control the remote size 5 turret on board of the ship. So you got another 5 people who will handle those manned turrets around the ship. So it makes 10 already. The remaining 4 crew members would be, one of them would be a weapon officer who will be babysitting those size 10 torpedoes, a pilot who's going to control that smaller craft that's housed inside of a hangar. There will be an engineer who play with the machines, of course, and there's a medical officer who's trying to make some potions inside of the med bay. So that's it of those 14 people on board of your Polaris, and this makes sense in most of the scenario. But the problem is that repair gameplay would be much complex than nowadays, so I presume that the engineer need 1 to 3 assistants to help him or her to run around the ship by fixing something, because, well, you really need the engineers staying at an engineer station to oversee every modules and also the ship's condition during combat. And if things go sideways, then he or she will need to dispatch someone to that sector of the ship to do some maintenance and stuff and repair. But you can't ask someone to be at 2 different locations at the same time, so that's why you need 1 to 3 personnel to help that engineer out. Also, just in case that the ship is being boarded during combat, you may need an extra 1 or 2 people to act like a security guard to be fully geared and well armed when the combat comes. Because you cannot really put on any kind of armor or gear up any kind of weapons when you're sitting on most of the seats on board of your ship. I mean, in the future, of course. So these extra 1 or 2 armed personnel will be able to buy you some time when your ship is being boarded and someone in the bridge cannot stop the hacking happen. Then yeah, those security guard will be the one who trying to fend off the boarding party to stop them, buy you some time for your crew to rush to the armory and gear up and join in the fight. So obviously, Polaris is not the only ship that suffered this kind of problem. A long time ago, I made a video about the Kraken Privateer. I mentioned this kind of problem as well, which since the Kraken Privateer is a mobile bazaar, or maybe you can say that's like a mobile market, so you will open to the strangers because they will be your customers, right? So you really need someone to act like a security guard, and it would be a sizable security guard so that patrolling inside and outside of a ship and stopping the strangers from proceeding to the restricted area inside a ship as well. So that size of crew would be much larger than the crew size that they suggested, as well as for example, both Kraken and Kraken Privateer, they can be act like a mini aircraft carrier, right? So it means that you should have a much larger size of those repairer, technicians, and mechanics on board, so that you can handle those repair, rearm, and refit of those smaller craft that is housing inside of your ship's hangar or maybe on the landing pad of your ship. So in short, if you wanted to treat your ship as your mobile base in the future, a maximum crew size would be better choice over a minimal crew size, as it can increase your chances of survival on your journey in the future. The last point of view of this video would be about the logistics for the capital ships, which may be worse than you think. Everyone knows that capital ships in the future will drain up a lot of in-game credits in order to keep them running. Yet, you still need to face a lot of challenges to resupply your capital ships even if you got enough credits inside of your bank account. There are only limited locations that can let capital ships to embark and resupply, which usually should be the locations that are well developed, and those locations will be the most possible places for your capital ships to purchase everything it needs. But it also means that you need to spend more time to travel because there might not be a sizable jump point between you and your destination, which you need to make a lot of detour in the process. Secondly, the number of things that capital ships require would be large. Except for those necessities, munitions, and also fuel that we know nowadays, you may also need to purchase something that you may not consider for now in Star Citizen. For example, extra modules and weapons for your ship and smaller craft on board of your ship, as you don't want to stick with the broken modules when they are beyond repair in the middle of your journey. Also, repair materials for repairing your ships and smaller craft's armor after combat, as well as medical supplies in order to keep your ship independent for another journey. However, based on how economic works in the future of Star Citizen, the location may not have the number of items that you needed for your ship, as there may not have such large demand before your arrival. So you may need to wait until someone in the game found out that your location ran out of stocks and start to deliver the cargo to your location. Lastly, even if you got what you wanted for your capital ship, it may need a long time for your crew or the NPC workers at the cargo deck to load everything into your ship. Overall, the whole supply for a capital ship may need to take hours to complete or even more than a day if you don't have enough time to wait until the resupply is finished before you log out. In conclusion, the capital ships in Star Citizen are cool looking, powerful, and they are the ideal ship type for many players to treat them as their home in the future in the game. But you need to understand everything will have a cost, which might be too costly for many people who try to get their hands on those expensive ships without knowing the consequences. So that's it for today's video about the problems that you may need to face if you own a capital ships in the future of Star Citizen. I know that I didn't include many things in this video because something I didn't really certain, and of course some of those problems will be well known already, so I'm not going to include in my video at this moment. So if you have any idea about those troubles that the capital ships may have in the future, feel free to leave a comment down below, or maybe the way that how you distribute your crew in the future, then or how to manage the crew size as well. So these kind of comments, feel free to leave a comment down below because I want to know about your thoughts. Okay, so I shall see you guys next time then. Bye bye.